A warm welcome to everyone. I am Nikhil of 10th Standard, Chennai, India. I am here to elucidate about the idea of genetics. Most of you would have known that we human beings are made of heaps of cells. But we also know that cells are the building blocks of our body. But have you ever wondered what a cell is made of? Does it have any specific components? The answer is yes. These components are known as cell organelles. But I am not going to explain about cell organelles, rather let us go into the world of genetics. Definition. What is genetics? Genetics is a study of genes which deals with molecular structure and function of genes. First of all, let us know what a gene is. Genes are found in DNA, that is deoxyribonucleic acids, which is a molecule composed of various nucleotides. The arrangement of these nucleotides is the genetic information of a particular organism. This is a basic setup of a DNA molecule, and simply a DNA molecule consists of two strands in which the various nucleotides are stacked together. They are stacked parallelly to each other, and this constitutes a gene. You must have understood what a gene is. Genetics deals with inheriting characters from parents to offspring. Genetic code. The connection between amino acid sequence and nucleotide sequence is known as genetic code. Both amino acids and nucleotides are interconnected with each other. Nucleotides determine the protein's function, while the amino acids in a protein determine how the nucleotides would fold into a three-dimensional shape. A change in the DNA would cause a drastic change in the organism. History and modern day genetics. At ancient times, the idea that living things inherit traits from their parents has been used for selective breeding. But recent genetics deals with the laws which was laid down by Gregor Mendel. Though he did not know the basis of heredity, he found out that living things inherit traits from their parents by discrete units known as genes. For this purpose, he laid down two laws of heredity. Apart from this, various theories were also proclaimed by many scientists. The most famous theories were the blending inheritance and inheritance of acquired characteristics. Though the latter one was proved that it has been wrong, the first one was quite successful. According to blending inheritance, the living things inherit traits by smooth and blending traits from their parents. According to inheritance of acquired characteristics, the living beings inherit traits which are strengthened by their parents. In 1911, Thomas Hunt Morgan discovered that genes are present only in chromosomes. Various process in genetics. You know, recent genetics involves various steps which are held in a gene, so which is widely used in the study of genetics. So let us consider them one by one. Molecular genetics. You know, chromosomes are present in the nucleus of a cell. Many would not have crossed the idea that chromosomes are made of proteins as well as DNA molecules. This has perplexed many scientists. They fail to recognize which is really responsible for the transmission of traits from their parents to offspring. After a chain of events, the scientists unveiled that DNA molecule is responsible for the inheritance of traits. Till then, various sea changes have been seen in the field of genetics. DNA replication. You know, as from this diagram, we know that DNA molecule consists of two strands. So DNA replication is a method in which one strand of one DNA molecule is separated from its partner strand and then stacked to another partner strand. So let me explain by drawing a diagram. So this is a pictorial representation of the process DNA replication. So here there are two DNA molecules, and one strand from one DNA molecule is separated from its partner strand, and subsequently it is paired with another strand to form a new DNA molecule to make a new gene. Mitosis. You know, the whole hereditary material in an organism is known as genome. When the cells divide, the whole genome is copied. This process is known as mitosis, and this is the simplest way of reproduction, and it forms the basis of asexual reproduction. This is the basic setup of the process mitosis. So this is a single cell containing a genome. So when this cell undergoes DNA replication and subsequently mitosis, it forms two new genomes, and finally when the cells are about to divide, there are two new genomes. So this is the basic setup of the process mitosis. Meiosis. During sexual reproduction, chromosomes cross over between each other. This crossover results in the shuffling of genes between the chromosomes. This process takes place with respect to meiosis, and which is a series of cell divisions. So, consider these as two chromosomes. So this one, when these chromosomes tend to shuffle with each other, they form Hobble gene. So this forms two new genes during sexual reproduction. Next one, nature versus nurture. Though the gene contains information, it partly relies on its relationship with the environment. This is known as phenotype, which is also known as nature versus nurture. A key example of this process is the body coloration of the Siamese cat, which is also known as temperature sensitive mutations. Its body pigment changes with deviation in temperature. Gene regulation. We know that each organism contains a genome. Each genome contains thousands of genes. It's not necessary for all the genes to be active at any moment. A gene may be expressed until it's broken down to form proteins. There are various controlling processes to stop down gene expression. Differences in gene expression are perceptible in multicellular organisms, and especially because the cells in multicellular organisms have the same genome, but they have discrete structure and behavior. Mutations. You may have heard the word mutation in the movie X-Men. So let us know what mutation is. During DNA replication, the strands present in a DNA molecule contains various errors. These errors are commonly known as mutations. So these can have a brunt in the phenotype of an organism. Process such as mutageny can increase the number of errors in these strands of DNA molecule, which subsequently leads to mutation. Usually the errors in the strands are small in numbers. It is the fact that UV radiations increases the mutations to be extreme and therefore causing damage to DNA structure. The effects of mutations are beneficial as well as deleterious too. Evolution. The gene of a particular organism revolutionizes over periods of time. This, as known by everyone, is known as evolution. Advances in modern genetics. Modern genetics have seen various advancements in its field. So let us consider them one by one. Model organisms. Model organisms. Modern geneticists are able to experiment the heredity of various organisms. For this, they choose a single subset of organisms known as model organisms. Some of the examples of model organisms are the common fruit fly, common house mouse, and the baker's yeast, etc. Medical field. Genetics has a predominant role in the field of genetics, in the field of medical field, and various processes such as genetic linkage, genetic Mendelian randomization are used to locate the infectious gene in a genome. So cancer is also a genetic disease. DNA research methods. There are various methods to research the DNA, and restriction enzymes are enzymes that cut down DNA in specific sequences which finally form the DNA fragments. And similarly, DNA can be amplified by a process called polymerase chain reaction, which is also known as PCR. DNA sequencing. This I have already told you. DNA sequencing is a process to to know the nucleotide sequence in an organism. Sequencing is less expensive. It is due to this fact that scientists are able to sequence the human genome. So, hope you would have understood what genetics means by this lecture. Genetics is a vast and a merriment profession. Many could take genetics as their professional careers, as there are a number of seats vacant. So, genetics is a very good subject to read, and it has a deep subject. It has broadened concepts to look into. So, thank you.